GM to YouTube. I'm making a video about a shovel today. I talked about this briefly in the last video. If you missed it, it's about the mocha changes for the different drops. One of these that Reddit was particularly really excited for is the Demon Spade, which they have nerfed. And people are really upset about it. Like, there's posts with thousands and thousands of upvotes about it. And I wanted to weigh in because I think I have a different take than literally everybody else. So if you missed it, this was a spade that just instantly digs up the entire patch, and it would work on anything that uses a spade. And they said, however, following both your feedback and another review pass, it's clear that this may not be the healthiest direction for the farming skill long term. We have concerns that this may disrupt the skill's balance by making certain crops such as snape grass and watermelons more efficient for XP than trees, effectively killing tree runs and causing big changes to the farming economy. This sent people reeling. It sent people reeling. So let's quick look at the numbers a second, because I'm a numbers guy. What exactly does this XP look like? Snapegrass is the highest XP allotment in the game by a lot. It's 82 XP per. They also have a tremendously high yield. Obviously, level is going to increase your yield. So if you're using magic secateurs, are level 99, and you have the Atas planted, Atas matters a lot. It gives you an extra roughly like 12, it looks like. So if you have all of that, and the higher level, the better, you get an average of almost 50. So let's do the numbers. 49.5 Snapegrass times 82 XP is 4,063 XP per patch. That's a little better than a maple tree. That's pretty good. And I've seen people say like, well, how long does it even take to dig up snapegrass? People don't do that right now. So how long could it even take? And I went and timed it. It's 60 seconds. It's 60 seconds to dig up a snapegrass plant. So this reduces it down to 8 game ticks. Run up, dig it up, give it a leprechaun, dig it up, give it a leprechaun. Patched on versus literally a full minute. That's a huge change. And that's enough of a change to make these runs really good. An important thing to remember about allotment patches is there's not one of them, there's always 2, except for Harmony Island, which you're probably not gonna go to. So there are 16 allotment patches, but in reality, that's closer to 8 patches 2 times, right? Because it's 2 sets of patches at 8 locations, right? So if you multiply that by 2, that's the actual XP when you visit an allotment patch. Like, the time taken for farming is mostly running over to that patch, but once you get there, there's 2 patches. So it's 8K XP. And if I pull up a U sapling, U saplings give 7K XP. So this is actually a bit more XP per visit to patches than a U tree, on top of giving 100 snapegrass. Multiply that by 8, because there's actually more allotment patch sets than there are tree patches. Multiply that by 8, you get 65K XP. Now, yew trees, this is the thing with tree patches, okay? Trees are excellent XP, and they're really brief. Like, you run up, you grab them, and they take a really long time to grow. So the whole thing with trees are you visit them very briefly, and then it takes them a long time to grow, okay? So snapegrass has a lot of benefits over these, okay? It takes snapegrass 70 minutes versus 400 minutes. That's where my concern comes in. There's all the talk of like, is this even broken? I see people coping and saying that these are only 11K, or they cost a lot. They're 11K, so it's 33K per patch. Quick counter to that. Before we do anything else, there's this thing called an amulet of bounty that everybody conveniently forgets about. This thing gives you a good chance, 25% odds, to use only 1 seed when you plant. So that significantly counters the amount of seeds needed. But regardless, does that even matter? These seeds are expensive. And then people are saying, well, the price will go up. The price has already gone up tremendously, by the way. If we check this, it's gone up from like 8K to almost 11.5K per seed in hype for the shovel. And I think it's still going up because people are thinking that they might revert this because Reddit is crying about it. 8 sets of patches that give a little bit more XP than a U. You get 50 snapegrass per patch for 16 patches, giving you a total of 800 snapegrass. 800 snapegrass, better XP than U's, grows in under a quarter of the time. I'm seeing some concerning things. This makes me think of birdhouses. And I hate birdhouses. I honestly think birdhouses are the worst skilling content ever added. They are hourly. It is really good training for this skill, and it encourages you every hour to stop what you're doing and go do that instead. If you're playing efficiently, that's what you would go do. Before we move on, there's also watermelon seeds, which are also quite good. And these are dramatically worse than snapegrass, okay? They're 54.5 XP, and you get less of them. It's 32 at best. So if we calc that, 32 times 54.5 is 1.7k XP, which is a little under a maple, but you multiply by 2 because there's 2 patches next to each other. Oh, it's a little bit better than a maple. A maple sapling is 3,400 XP. These are 3,488. To pretend this isn't stepping on tree seeds' toes right now is, I don't know, that's disingenuous to me. Not to mention watermelons aren't useless either. Like getting a lot of watermelons is just good for making super compost. Obviously mains don't really care about that, but it's really good for irons. So it's really good XP, really good for irons. And it encourages you to do these birdhouse run tasks constantly, which I think is really, really unhealthy for farming. I don't think this is a good thing. I don't think you should be encouraged to go farm allotment patches. I don't think that improves the skill. It is great for XP. You will do farming faster. Awesome. That's not, I don't even really care how fast farming is. That's not really a concern of mine. What is a concern is encouraging you to break up content constantly, which is the really annoying thing about birdhouse runs. Now every hour, why don't you do your birdhouse run and your watermelon run? You might as well, right? Like they're both on the same timer. Now you do this really long task. It seems really annoying to me. And this is like Reddit's initial response to things. So I found a couple Reddit responses. I don't care about your potential XP rates. I genuinely don't care if allotments are now crazy farming XP. If you want to do 9 allotment runs a day, go ahead, get your farming XP. 99% of the player base will not be doing that. I don't think that's true. I disagree with that. So I don't care if the 1% of farmers are pumping out XP, just give me my damn super shovel. And I think basically across the board, this sums up like the vibe check on this change. Everybody's just pissed. They wanted to instantly harvest every patch and it's been taken away. Before they even had it in their hands, it's been taken away. Very unfortunate. Here's another one. And this is a sarcastic post, which is birdhouse runs should be changed so you can't empty the whole birdhouse instantly. This hunter training method is currently far too broken. Right now, you can just run to a birdhouse and click it once and you immediately harvest every bird's nest before teleporting to the next one. Because of this, some people may even reach hunter levels in the 80s before experiencing the rest of the skill. A method like this is too meta-defining and can be achieved far too early in progression. I completely agree with that. Therefore, I propose that it should take you a couple ticks to pull out each bird's nest in order to line up the skill with a more current design philosophy. Maybe when the rare fossil boss releases, it can drop something to make harvesting birdhouses 30% faster as a treat. This whole post is sarcastic, but he's right on the money, and this is actually what they should have done. You can't make it up, man. Like, this is actually how birdhouses should have been implemented. A very high profit, slower XP method that you can go do occasionally as an alternative to get birdhouse nests and not XP. Birdhouses are the meta for XP, I believe, until 91. I think the high level contracts overtake. Obviously, tick manip black chins with like an altar crazy as well, but birdhouses are the meta for a large amount of levels. Like, you want to do birdhouse runs. And I think even Mod Kieran has stated that he felt like they were a mistake, that they shouldn't have added them for every reason I've just stated. Like, it breaks up content. It makes you train hunter specifically through these hourlies. This got me thinking. There was this other post I saw, which was really, really interesting, about optimizing the fun out of a game by removing pain points and the death of gathering skills. This is a really, really long read. It's a really good read. I'd highly recommend it. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. Effectively, there's this idea that the RuneScape, not even the RuneScape community, game communities in general, will always vie for the higher XP. It's not even higher XP. Anything that benefits them, people will vie for. We just saw it with the shadow buff, with the tremendous amount of power creep. There was post after post on Reddit about, just let shadow be strong. What's so wrong about shadow being strong? And I kept seeing posts about how, like, shadow's not even the most expensive mega rare, so why does it matter if it's any stronger? You know, a bunch of like these very weird arguments, a lot of straw man arguments, that kind of thing, of it doesn't matter if this thing's powerful because I'll like it and I'll get to use it and it'll feel good. Sometimes a buff is not a good thing for the game. And I think we all know this, but like, psychologically, people don't know this, and they want buffs always. Anything that's pulled that will be a buff will pass. It doesn't matter what it is or to what extent. It is a buff. So a lot of times, players will campaign for these changes that make things clunkier or make them worse, just because it's less time they're going to spend doing it, or it's better for them in some way. It makes them do more damage. It makes them feel more powerful. He had this. I'll read this part of the post, which was really interesting about the spade. It was one of the new potential rewards from the delve boss is a spade that harvests crops more quickly. Cool. It's a shame it's coming from PVM instead of something farming related, but it's flavorful and improves a pain point with farming in that harvesting takes a while. I saw some people theory crafting that mass snape grass with instant gathering could actually be faster effective XP an hour than tree runs are at present, which on the surface sounds great to me. Allotments should be a viable way to train the skill. there should be a more active method than tree runs that rewards higher effective XP. I agree. I completely agree. I think it, honestly, for me, farming is my least favorite skill. And it's not like the worst skill to train, but it's my least favorite skill. Like, if I could not train farming, I would. I don't like breaking up content and going and doing something. And I think farming across the board for people is like, yeah, either it's your favorite skill or it's your least favorite skill. Like, there's very little in between. Some people just adore farming. They'll do herb runs to 30 mil XP, and some people despise it and wish it didn't exist. I'm the latter. I don't like it at all. I would always prefer to actively train a skill. My favorite skill is actually agility, besides combat, obviously. Like, combat is the best. But my favorite skill is agility, because Sepulcher is so interactive and so engaging that it becomes my favorite skill. Before Sepulcher existed, it's like my least favorite skill in the game. But Sepulcher is such an interesting, engaging, fun way to train agility that I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, something interactive that isn't tithe farm, like something more interesting to train farming with, would be really cool. Actively running around to all the allotments, planting something and harvesting when you get to the end of the loop should be a better way to actively train than engaging for 30 seconds every day. But as things are, trees are both the lowest engagement and the highest XP, so that's definitely the way to improve farming. Buff snape grass so that it's viable, higher effort alternative to tree runs. And the Spade making it faster is a great way to do that, yes? No. The reason I'm writing this post is after seeing discussion on the new Spade and a large pro-Spade backlash to the backlash. Well, it seems like a really nice little reward. It speeds up a boring thing you're doing. To me, under the surface, it's actually yet another concerning slide towards optimizing away engagement. Since the majority of time spent farming is actually now the harvesting step, speeding that up by even half will remove yet more engagement out of the skill. He goes on to suggest that it do something like adding engagement instead of taking away. Maybe you could till the soil, and you get increased yield the next time you plant something, right? Something that makes you do a little extra thing for a bonus. Something that makes you do a little bit more with the skill instead of taking away something. Taking away training the skill is worse than adding to it, right? Sepulcher added engagement to agility. You could just do rooftops and it's literally just click them. Or you could do Sepulcher where it's dodge traps, click very effectively, click very carefully, perfectly to get better XP rates and better loot. Right? That increases engagement with the skill. That's why it's one of my favorite updates to skilling they've ever done. Sepulcher is amazing. A big concern of mine anytime we're talking about content is time-gated content. We just saw it with Rathmaw where that pole got shut down. It got nuked from orbit. Nobody wanted that, where it had time-gated content you could do. This boss occasionally. If I had my way, there would be no time-gated content in the game. Farming would not work the way it does. Maybe it wouldn't exist at all. I don't know. Maybe it could be reworked to be an actively trained skill. There would not be daily herb boxes. There would not be daily battle staves. Maybe you could just buy battle staves in a greater stock than 5. Maybe herb boxes are a reward for doing something. There would not be daily charges on your explorer's ring. There'd be a way to recharge it. There would not be daily charges on your Falador shield. There'd be ways to recharge it. There would not be daily 5 spellbook swaps. There'd be a way to recharge it. If I had my way, this is how it would work with everything. There'd be no dailies in the entire game. And that's because I come from RS3. I played RS3 until I came to this game, and I've seen what they do to the game. Okay, I'm gonna briefly show this website. This is called Dailyscape. This is a really convenient checklist for RS3 players that shows all the dailies with a timer on it, telling you when reset is gonna happen. RS3 has dailies just like old school RuneScape, just multiply that number by 100. They have a ridiculous amount of dailies. Using your treasure hunter keys, if you've ever seen that, that's your daily spins, that's Wheel of Fortune, okay? You could go buy the items from the traveling merchant. He has a random set of items you can buy once a day. Hey, today it has a death touch start that actually lets you one-shot a mid-level boss. That's pretty cool. There's daily challenges, so go chop this amount of U logs, that kind of thing. You get a boost to your XP, you get a sack of loot, you get treasure hunter keys, do your Jack of Trades you do your Soul Reaper, you do your player-owned ports, you do your player-owned farm, you do your Crystal Tree Blossom, you do your Invention Machine, you do the Motherlode Maw, you do your Grajo card, you do your Divine Locations, a card. Oh, we're not done, by the way, because guess what? All of the shops in RS3 are on a daily reset timer. So if we go down here, buying out the rune shops is going to be a huge profit. And in an Iron Man, that's going to be the main way you get runes. So buying your runes, doing your Viswax, buying Feathers of Mont, Bach Bolts, Wicked Hood runes, Feather Shop Run, Miscellanea, Sandstone, Crystal Sandstone, Meat Packs, Vial of Water Packs, Yak Hide, Broad Arrowheads, Bandit Duty, Herb Run, Seaweed, that's the dailies. That's all the dailies you can do a day. If you wanted to do all of these, it would take you like 4 to 6 hours. I'm not even to the weeklies yet. Oh yes, they have weeklies. We have Tears of Guthix. They have much more than Tears of Guthix. So they also have Tears of Guthix. Awesome. We have Thalmund's Wares, capping the Clan Citadel, which is not Good for XP, and nobody does that anymore. It's a chore that clan leaders make you do. Unlucky. Charging Anachronia totems. Meg. Tears of Gothics. Urby Werby. Big Top Bonanza. Penguin Hide and Seek. Wisps of the Grove. Penguin Hide and Seek is insane, by the way. It gives you like 100 KXP for like 10 minutes of work. It's really, really worth doing. Shattered Worlds. Familiarization. Skeletal Horror. Aquarium Treasure Chest. Agaroth. Replay Broken Home. Rush of Blood. Water Filtration. Miscellaneous. Oh, and then there's the monthlies. Yes, the monthlies. Solomon's Store, Premier Club Vault, Giant Oyster, God Statues, Effigy Incubator, Troll Invasion, and the Dream of Laya XP. And then there's ways to get tokens that reset these and let you do them 2 times a day. Because we don't do them enough. You need to do them even more. Whew. That's not even to mention my favorite of them all, Wildy Flash events. My favorite. If you ever talk to an RS3 player who's an Iron Man, they've done these, and they've done them many, many times. So they removed the wilderness effectively in RS3, and it's opt-in, okay? So they removed it because PvP in that game sucks. I think there's some merit to it, but no one interacts with it. So they removed the wilderness. They replaced it. When they removed the wilderness, they added these hourly events that happen in the wilderness. So every hour on the hour, one of these events will happen. Some are better than others. What do you get for doing these? What are the requirements to do these? The requirements to do these are nothing. A couple of them have combat, so you can't do it at level 3, but most of them, 90% of them, you can do as a level 3. You can get off Tutorial Island, and you can start doing these. What do they give you? Each event yields an XP reward, so you just get a chunk of XP based on what it was. Woodcutting, mining, whatever it is, okay? And a sack of wild rewards. We pull that up. What's in there? An average value of 170k. 170k. Chunk of chins, which are useful in RS3. These rare seeds. These ashes, which give you prayer, these bones, which give you prayer, etc., 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 etc. These 2 stages, or these 2 events, the Infernal Star and the Evil Tree, have 3 stages to the event, so it's a little bit longer, and it gives you 3 of these. So you don't want to miss those, and you weren't going to want to set alarms. I had someone in my chat tell me that they woke up at midnight to go do their Evil Trees, and they would set an alarm every single time and wake up in the middle of the night to go do that because they didn't want to miss it. You also, from these 2 events, get a sack of very wild rewards, which gives you an average of 300k. And there's the good old Brawling Gloves, if you remember, if you were an RS2 player who killed Revenants, Brawling Gloves. It gives you these massively powerful weapons, which I believe are tier 80? Tier 87. This is actually a higher level tier than our T-bow is, effectively. Their power creep is a little out of whack, but this is an extremely powerful item. This is like ripping a T-bow out of a sack. There's also this extremely rare Dark Onyx core, in case you needed more reason to do them, that drop these extremely important pieces of jewelry. So as an Iron Man, you'll be doing these constantly. How rare is that, by the way? 2 rolls at 2 of 830. So you are going to have to do these constantly until you get 3 of these as an Iron Man. 3 of them. Even if you don't care about the massive amount of gold, you have to do them. You have to. These caches, if you've interacted with RS3 as well, you'll know about them. These Gothixian caches. They added the skill Divination, which is this incredibly slow gathering skill that is incredibly boring to train and no one likes. Okay? They added this you can do twice a day, Gothixian caches, which gives you a chunk of like 30k XP when you do it, in a skill that is 10k XP base at level 10 an hour, increasing by like 5k per 10 levels. So it peaks at like, I think like 80k XP an hour. These you can do twice a day, take 5 to 10 minutes. It scales with your level 2, 30k XP. So the way people train this skill typically is not training it. You just do these caches and you do it twice a day. It's just like a tree run. You log in, you do your divination. A lot of old school players just think RS3 was ruined by Evolution of Combat. You know what? Evolution of Combat has honestly come around from when it released. It was terrible on launch, but it's pretty good now. It has a lot of pretty cool systems going, a lot of pretty interesting... The high tier PVMers in that game are pretty dang good, and it's pretty crazy what they pull off. What is a concern is this crap. This ruined RS3 for me. It made it so I couldn't play it anymore. I can't stand this. Even having that feeling of I could be doing something that I'm not and it would be more efficient, but I'm wasting time doing what I'm doing. You feel guilty not doing these. You literally feel guilt. You're like, oh, I missed that Wildy Flash event. Wow. How did I miss my Evil Tree? No. Oh, I wasn't thinking about it. Oh, I didn't do it. No, I have to wait another day before I can do that. All this time-gated bullshit is what ruins RS3, more so than anything else. More so than the microtransactions even. This ruins it more. Honestly, if you play an Iron Man in RS3, there are no microtransactions. You can avoid it by playing an Iron Man. You can't avoid these. You'll never ever ditch these. They're trying to remove microtransactions. There's talk of them removing those. They are never gonna remove dailies. Never ever. And it keeps me from playing that game. It's a good game mired by this. And I don't think old school is ever gonna turn into this, like completely, but anything that makes it closer to this, adding things that are on hourly timers, daily timers, weekly timers, monthly timers, anything like that that's time gated, I will vote no to. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's good. I don't care if it's bad. I don't care if it'll be dead content. I don't care if no one will interact with it. I don't care if I'll never interact with it. I will vote no to it. Anything that's time gated, I will vote no to it. There's nothing in the game that needs to be time gated, and I will vote no to it. Doesn't matter what it is. That's my take. That's my take. I think a lot of old school players don't know about this, don't know what can happen. This is my cautionary tale, okay? Okay? This is a thing to fear. Recently, there was a lot of like old school streamers that were moving to WoW to try it out. Like a handful of streamers were going to try it. The big reason I don't play WoW or any other MMO for that matter is this. This is what keeps me from playing anything but RuneScape. This is what separates RuneScape from everything else. Everything else time gates stuff. WoW time gates their raids. How could I possibly go play that? In what world, in what universe would I go play that? There's no reason. It's completely pointless. Every other MMO has some kind of daily to get you to log in and stay interacting with their content, stay playing the game. They have something to make you log in. Even like FPS games, Apex Legends, Overwatch, Escape from Tarkov, they all have these dailies, daily challenges, daily bonuses for doing daily things to get you to open the game and interact with their content. It boosts their numbers. It keeps you playing the game, artificially makes more people play their game. It's a win for them. It's a win for them. That's why RS3 does it. Old school avoids these pitfalls that other games have that ruin their game. They are not willing, because old school was created out of a mistake that RuneScape made in the past and has pulled content. We avoid these pitfalls. We don't have microtransactions. We don't have dailies. We have very minor dailies, but nothing like other games have that like you feel like you have to log in to do the dailies or you feel guilty. There's nothing in old school that makes me feel guilty for not logging in, which is one of the best things about it. Old school RuneScape, I have like over 30,000 hours in, yet it respects my time more than any other game. I have over 10 times more time in RuneScape than any other game, but it respects my time more than... How? How can a game that sinks so much time out of people, has these insanely long grinds, respect your time? How can that be possible? It's because they don't do things like this. You aren't forced to go do something else. If you want to camp a boss until you have 100,000 KC, if you want to be Zulrah Goat, and you want to kill Zulrah all day, every day, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. There's no cap on Zulrah that means, oh, you killed your 30 Zulrah today. You can't kill anymore, buddy. The Zulrah's not going to come out of the swamp anymore. You're going to have to go do something else. Bad luck. Other games do that. This game doesn't do that. You can train any skill you want at any given moment. If you're not enjoying something, go do something else. Other games, you literally can't do that. You don't always have the right to go do something else. That's what's so wonderful about old school. It respects you. It respects your time. It disrespects your time. It requires thousands of hours to max. But you know what? You don't have to do it. You can do it at your own pace. You can do it at your own pace. There's nothing forcing you to do anything you don't want to. You don't have to 3-tick fish. You don't have to 1.5-tick woodcut. There's nothing forcing you to do that. You can go AFK redwoods. You can go AFK anglerfish. You can AFK caribou. There's nothing preventing you from doing that. You can go do that if you want. You have options. And if you don't want to train fishing today, do some Slayer. You have so many options for how you approach things that it makes it fair. It makes it fair. The RuneScape grind is impossibly long, but fair. That's what's so good about it. The shovel effectively adds an unfun way to train farming that is worth training. It is worth doing this new method if it comes out. If Reddit gets their way and they revert the shovel, it will be worth doing allotment runs. My question is the game better if you're doing allotment runs? I would say no. I don't want anything being added. That's hourly content. I don't want it. I have big issues with farming as a whole. I wish it was something different entirely. Maybe they can add more methods like Tithe Farm in the future that give options for people like me that don't want to do dailies. Adding an hourly bonus method to farming that you can do does not improve the skill. Even if it gives you more XP and that makes you happy and that number go up, make you happy, smiley face, it's going to feel worse to train and it's not going to make the game better. I kind of wish, as a whole, instead of spending all this time making sailing, they looked at some of the skills that need love. I appreciate that they're in the summer cleanup. They are going to clean up Slayer points a little bit and that kind of thing, like the way you get tasks. That's a great thing. But I wish they invested more time into the skills that need it, that don't feel fun to train. There's so many of them. Just looking at the skills, all of these could be like cleaned up. Think about fire making. Fire making is winter taught at 50 to 99. Until then, you just light some logs. There is nothing to fire making. It is winter taught the skill, and it has been a long time. There's really no other options. Mining is a huge pain point for a lot of people. It's awful early. There's some okay methods like later on, but like it could use some cleanup. Like some actually interesting methods would be good. Some more AFK options. It could use some help. Hunter, early hunter is just skip it with birdhouses. If you try to interact with hunter early, it's a terrible time. Some cleanup would help a lot on those early creatures. Those early contracts wouldn't be such a slog if some of the creatures weren't so terrible. The pursuit, the like tracking on different mobs, it's so bad. It's so awful. And I said agility is my favorite skill, but only when you get sepulcher. What do you do until then? Rooftops? Why doesn't agility have a couple like mini training sepulchers like earlier on that are like really good XP, or just some more stuff? Like agility is rooftops until you get to sepulcher, and it's sepulcher all the way to 99. And sepulcher is great and has a lot of variation, so I think that's okay, but honestly, some more methods at higher levels would be good too. And we talked about Slayer. They're cleaning up Slayer points, but I think Slayer is a huge problem as well. The Slayer point system is such a slog. It's so annoying to interact with. There's so many things that cost so many points for no reason. It's made tedious on purpose. I just think a lot of effort could be spent cleaning up earlier skills, and yet Reddit is vying for things that make skilling worse. I think a lot of people, my first reaction was, why are they nerfing the shovel as well? And then I went and calced it, and I kind of understood. I think a lot of people are only seeing this like surface level, my toy is being taken away, and I don't understand why. But when you really look at it, it's like, this is adding something that is not fun. And a lot of people are making straw man arguments. They're like, well, if you don't want the people that don't want the shovel are just EHP sweat lords, and they're stinky and they need a shower. And it's not really, no one who's like, yeah, the nerf was probably the right thing to do is thinking that. They're thinking this was adding an unfun thing to do. And it was also devaluing a bunch of things in the market. A ton of different seeds were going to go up in value, down in value. A lot of things are being devalued in order to make a new birdhouse run as an option for farming. It just doesn't. I wanted to also mention, while we're talking about devaluing things, it's not just the allotment patches that will get hit, because what is next to every allotment patch? An herb patch. Oh, are there any of those that give a good XP? Well, let's just check. The highest level one is Torstal. At max yield, you can get 9.5, 9.42 times the harvest XP of 224.5 is an extra 2,000 XP on top. This is a concern as well, okay? So now every time you're doing your allotment patch run, you're also doing your Torstal run for XP as well. So you multiply this by the amount of patches you're gonna do, which is 8 in this case with your allotment runs, it's an extra 16k XP, 17k XP, rounded up. So that's gonna devalue Torstal seeds even further, and it's also gonna devalue Torstals even further. These are kind of low in value as it is, and a lot of things drop Torstals. A lot of bosses drop Torstals. It's something to keep in mind. This is not all in a bubble. It's not like, oh, it's just snapegrass seeds will go up. There's a lot of things happening here when we put through this change. I think that protecting herb seed value and herb value is really important in this game as well. It's another thing in RS3, all the herb seeds are, well, they were virtually worthless until they allowed you to plant multiple at once, which is a whole different deal. A lot of the profit from different locations like Toa, a huge amount of the profit is the Ranar seeds and the Snapdragon seeds you get. And a huge amount of the value from Chambers is the herbs you get. Like you get a ton of grimy herbs. So I think devaluing these is typically not a good thing either. Herb runs are consistently the best like early game moneymaker. Until you get, I've been telling people do herb runs until you get to like mid-level bosses basically, because they're always going to be your best profit is the early herb runs. So if we get to a point where those are no longer good, your options for making money early are rough. You're devaluing the profit at a bunch of bosses, and you're ruining early moneymakers for little noobs. It's just not a good deal. I haven't seen anybody talk about the torstals at all. They're always talking about snapegrass or watermelons, but never torstals. These are going to be done at the exact same time as you do watermelons or snapegrass. So this is also a problem. If it's the nerf as they've proposed, like that you get 2 per action, this won't be a problem because no one's going to do allotment runs. It takes way too long to harvest allotments. Even with double rate, it's not going to be worth doing those. But you'll still like get herbs the same way you used to. It's not going to devalue those. But this would open up you doing herb runs that you weren't going to do because you're doing allotment runs you weren't going to do, right? So it has a whole cascading problem for the economy. The big problem with the shovel, and the reason they nerfed it, is not because some EHP nerds bathing in their own sweat and their own filth are going to cry that their XP rates have changed and their grind they already did has been devalued. That's not at all the problem with it. The problem with it is that it encourages doing chores, and people don't like doing chores. Nobody likes doing chores. We want to play a video game. We want the video game to be fun. Balancing all these different factors, the balance of the game, what's fun to do, what isn't, the economy. There's so many factors that need to be kept in mind, and the shovel caused issues, plain and simple, was disrupting these things. Yes, the shovel would be a huge buff to XP, and that would make you happy number go up. But it would also encourage you hourly to go do allotment and herb runs. To be honest, I'm really surprised that Jagex caught this because I was not thinking about allotment patches at all. Well, I thought about how harvesting snapegrass quickly on the iron would be nice, but I didn't think about how much XP that would give. That's a ridiculous amount. Yeah, I don't mind if farming is fast. I don't mind if the way we train it changes. The game is going to get updated and things are going to change. I'm not an anti-change person. I hate 2004 Scape. I don't see any reason to ever go and play that, for example. One of the things that's best about old school RuneScape is how much the game has changed over the years and morphed and become better. I love the current state of old school, but this change would be a step backwards, and Jagex caught it. It's really important for Jagex as devs to sometimes be the bad guy and take away things that may be adding fun, like surface level, but are a detriment to the game. Things that are taking away your interactivity with skills that encourage you to not train the skill for long periods of time or come occasionally and do it. These methods don't improve the game. They make it worse. In the future, I would really like if they take a look at the farming skill and add some things like Tithe Farm that are actually fun. Some kind of like plant-based skilling boss that's not Hespori, like a group boss or something like that. Could be fun. Just some other methods to train farming that aren't purely wait for thing to grow, click it once, and log out, you know? I would really, really appreciate that. But this is a step towards more of that, which I think is a bad thing. The shovel's not QOL. It's not just making the herb runs faster. It has drastic implications beyond just making herbs faster. It adds huge problems for the economy. It adds a method that is just unfun. Everyone will be encouraged to do. And it needed this nerf. Like, plain and simple, it needed this. And Jagex caught it. One of my biggest hopes is that in the future, with a lot of these skills, they can look into adding even more interactive methods like Sepulcher across a majority of the skills. Flesh them out, fix them up, change them around, and look for ways to make them more fun to interact with, more fun to train, more fun to interact with the rewards, that kind of thing. I think that has a ton of value just for the longevity of the game, just going back and cleaning some things up that need some help. And that's it for the video. I have a funny feeling that everyone's gonna like this video. I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. Let me know what you think about dailies and that kind of thing in the comments. And what do you think about farming as a whole? Is it your favorite skill? I know it is for a lot of people, but it's definitely not for me. I'm not a huge fan. Leave a like if you liked it, and or subscribe. Bye! Mwah!